Hey everyone, welcome back to Keto and Crime. Today I've got a review for you. I'm going to be talking about Amazon Prime's brand new crime docuseries, cult docuseries. There's a little bit of everything in there. Shiny Happy People, which on its surface is a docuseries about the Duggars, but more widely, it is a docuseries about the Institute for Basic Life Principles, or one very radical segment of what is known as the 𝗟𝗶𝗁 movement. And if you've ever watched my channel before, you know that nothing gets my juices flowing more than a good cult. And the 𝗟𝗶𝗁 movement is definitely that at its most basic level. And so, before we jump in here and we talk about this docuseries, I want to welcome you if you are new here. My name is Tracy. I do true crime, cults, dark history, and TV and sci-fi relating to true crime, horror, anything in that genre. So I do a lot of stuff over here, but I think we have a lot of fun. So welcome. If you're not new here, thank you so much for joining me. And yes, I have finally updated the tree. It is now patriotic since we are entering summer. Patriotic gnomes and everything. So welcome. And I'm glad you were patient with me. Thank you so much. And so with that being said, let's dive in to Shiny Happy People. Shiny Happy People, directed by Julia Willoughby-Nason and Olivia Christ, premiered on Amazon Prime on June 2nd and has taken the world by storm. My fellow true crime YouTuber, Fundy Friday, was featured in the docuseries, and she did a tremendously awesome job. If you have not checked her out, I'll put a link to her channel right up there. Go check her out. She delves exclusively in fundamentalist Christian cults, whereas I do a little bit of everything, but she did a absolutely tremendous job. I myself have also taken a deep dive into the 𝗟𝗶𝗁 movement, which is what the Duggars are a part of and what the Institute for Basic Life Principles is a part of. It is not necessarily a church, it is a movement, which basically goes off the fact that everyone should have a lot of kids, as many kids as they have. Happy is the man whose children are a blessing. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. It's basically off that one verse, which I believe is in Proverbs. So it is definitely a dangerous movement, as far as not in like the fact that you shouldn't have a lot of kids. That's not what I'm saying. Or you shouldn't model your life after biblical principles. That's not what I'm saying. But the way that this particular sect, the one that has been popularized, such as the Duggars, the Institute for Basic Life Principles, does, it is very dangerous. And what this proves, what this documentary proves, and I'm right in the middle. A lot of people call me a conservative, a lot of people call me a liberal. I'm right in the middle. And I really believe that any extreme, whether it's extreme liberalism, such as what we're seeing now with gender ideology, and other things, extreme atheism, which to me is just a religion all on its own. I'm an atheist, but I'm a quiet atheist who will talk about it if I'm asked, but I also see some benefits that religion brings the world, and I don't see any problem with it. But then you do have that extreme, which is more of a worship of the government than, just a life free from a deity. And then on the other side, you have extreme religious movements, extremely conservative ideologies like this 𝗟𝗶𝗁 movement that is a huge danger to society, especially certain segments of society, namely women and anybody that is not, I hate to sound like a liberal kook here, but it's not a straight white man. So, extremes on either end is not good. They are not good. We need to stick somewhere in the middle. But as someone that has struggled with compulsive overeating and binge eating most of her life, I know that sometimes moderation is not the easiest thing. You're either on the wagon or off the wagon, so to speak. And so I think moderation is hard for most people, and I think that's why you see these movements. And I have delved very deeply into the quiverful movement. I have an entire playlist on my channel, which I will link right up here, on the quiverful movement, where I examine what it is, what the general tenets are, delve into some movements like Institute for Basic Life Principles and the Duggars, as well as some other quiverful personalities, and kind of show what they mean. I also delve into how their children are educated and things like that. I think it's an interesting playlist. Definitely check that out. But this documentary takes on the Duggars specifically, and from there leapfrogs to show that what the Duggars portray is indeed just a shiny, happy people facade that is put up for bringing in this quiverful ideology to the world, to show it that it's all these wonderful things. And it's a 4-part documentary. It's just under 4 hours total. I watched it all in one day, and I started on late on a Friday afternoon and finished it, before 10 o'clock on Friday night. So it's not a huge time commitment, and it's very interesting. But it starts with the Duggars. It talks about the Duggars. We all know them from 17 Kids and Counting. Then I think it was 19 Kids and Counting, and then after the whole Josh Duggar sex scandal broke, it was Counting On with 2 of the girls. And so it rehashes where the Duggars came from, what their background was, what their general ideology was, and then delves into the show. And then it goes into the church, if you will, that the Duggars are part of, and that is the Institute for Basic Life Principles. Now, the Institute for Basic Life Principles was started by a man named Bill Gothard, who has his own legacy of bizarre sex stuff, shall we speak. We're talking about Josh Duggar. We have to talk about bizarre sex stuff. He has his own struggles with it, and basically it is a money-making organization that it's not really a church. You won't find one church that is the Quiverful Church. It's just a system of like-minded churches that use these principles. And how those principles are put forth to the majority of people that follow them is through the Institute for Basic Life Principles. It's definitely one of the big players. They for the longest time, wrote most of the homeschooling curriculum that was used in a lot of fundamentalist Christian homes. And so they really had a lot of pull. There were conferences. The Duggars were their poster children. And that's where they all got their power and their start. And it really delves into not only the background on the Duggars and, goes bit by bit into what happened with Josh Duggar. You see a lot of evidence of how that was swept under the rug, and it was. I mean, they basically, after the Duggars realized that Josh had been touching his sisters and some other children associated with the family, he was taken to a police officer who gave him a good scare, and then he was sent to Goddard to work in one of his Institute for Basic Life Principles, youth centers, and was, punished or rehabilitated that way. And of course, we know what happened. He was later caught with more CP than anyone else has ever been busted with. So we know that didn't work. If you want to see my in-depth analysis of Josh Duggar's crimes, again, that playlist is right up there. But it really delves into that. It delves into a lot of the allegations that we see around a lot of these mega churches, particularly ones that are so close-lipped and so fundamentalist. You see a lot of abuse of children, not only sexually, but also using them pretty much as slave labor. There was a lot of the work that is done in the Institute of Basic Life Principles is done by volunteers who are not paid, and you see all the money being funneled into only the people at the top of that particular pyramid. So it's a tale as old as time, a tale of exploitation. And I think this docuseries does a really good job in delving in. I don't want to give away too much of it, but I found out a lot about the quiverful movement that I didn't know, even with all my research. There's a whole movement to try to put people that believe this particular way into the highest levels of government and a business to kind of influence the way people think. You know, much like we see that on the other side with corporations and politicians, you know, with the whole indoctrination on that side, you know, through gender ideology and socialism and all that. You see that it's going on the extreme right as well. Both of them are equally dangerous, so we have to watch out for that. But this docu-series does a really good job in pointing out some of that stuff. And even though I don't particularly see most religion as harmful, this religion is definitely, this particular sect of religion is very harmful. And even though this documentary falls into the camp of they definitely have a narrative to tell, they're definitely anti-quiverful, it doesn't really get too preachy. Because they definitely, in a lot of ways, just turn on the camera and let it roll and talk to these people and kind of understand. There's a lot of former members of this movement that speak out, that tell what happened to them, and also member of the Duggar family are prominently displayed. Jim Bob Duggar's sister, their niece, and I have a particular affection for their niece, who is just an awesome chick. And also has received one of the Duggar daughters, you know, one of the ones that was abused by Josh, steps out and tells her story, and, you know, just really, really uplifting at how they can still be so positive with all that's happened to them. The Duggars were offered, that is Jim Bob and Michelle, were offered a chance to be part of it. They refused. The Institute for Biblical Life Principle, Basic Life Principles, also refused. So they were offered their chance to tell their side of the story, and they refused. So what do you have to assume from that? That they have something to hide. So I think this documentary was dead on in a lot of the stuff that it pinpointed. It was very well done. It was entertaining. It didn't seem like, you know, 3 hours and 45 minutes of my time. Boom, it was over, and I'm like, oh, there's got to be more. You know, I really enjoyed it. A lot of the true crime documentaries, religious documentaries that have come out, it's kind of a struggle to get through them. But this one was really good. I definitely give it, you know, 5 thumbs up, 5 stars, however you want to rate that. And I found out lots of stuff that I didn't know, and I thought I was pretty well versed in the Duggars and the quiverful movement. And if you haven't heard of this particular movement, I highly advise you to check out my playlist or go over to Fundy Fridays and check out some of her stuff on it, get a kind of understanding of who the Duggars are, what the movement is, and then watch this documentary, because it will absolutely add on to that and really open up that whole Pandora's box for you. I think the title was aptly placed. Because if you look at the Duggars, they seem like very shiny, happy, Winnie the Pooh kind of people, but there's a whole lot of darkness underneath that. And I really feel sorry for these children. I really do. No one should have to go. I was raised in a very fundamentalist religious household, and it wasn't fun for me, though we were nowhere near the type of fundamentalism that they were, but it was still hard. And I know how particularly damaging that can be. So, definitely a good docuseries, worth your time. I hope that I can encourage you to go over and watch it. As I said, it is Amazon Prime, so you would have to be a Prime member to stream it for free. I think you can rent it if you're not a Prime member on Prime Video as well. It's only like $5.99 or something. It's not expensive. So it's definitely worth that. If you're into cults and into the Duggars and want to find out more about his particular breed of crimes, I definitely recommend checking it out. Or if you want an in-depth dive that's free, completely free, check out my playlist or go over to Fundy Friday. But with that being said, that is my review of Shiny Happy People. And go check it out. Definitely worth your time. And until next time, 𝗙𝗂𝗀𝗋.